And we're going live in 3, 2, 1. Hey, good evening, everybody. I appreciate y'all dialing in. It's Captain Shaq Robinson here, dialing in from San Diego, California. And I just want to welcome everybody to the third week edition of Brunswick and Beyond. It's we're halfway through it already now, and I'm pretty excited. So far up until this point, we've had over 600 views of these videos that's been on Facebook and social media. So I appreciate everybody dialing in. This week is pretty near and dear to my heart. It's the military edition of Brunswick and Beyond. And we put this one together specifically because outside of the jobs you can do, whether you're in the private sector or working for a big company, there's definitely a lot that you can do inside the service. And that word service having so many definitions, and I'm excited to be able to share this with everybody tonight. So if you haven't been a part of the first 2 weeks, what Brunswick and Beyond is I'm bringing back panelists. I'm bringing out Brunswick High and Glenn Academy graduates who have made it through the high school ranks, got their diploma, and then from there they went beyond. So they went off to the workforce. They went off to different states. Some stayed in Brunswick. Some went up to Atlanta, and different places like that. And what they're doing over the past 2 weeks and now week 3 is they're sharing their experiences. You know, they've made it to some level of success in their own careers, and they're sharing their time to be able to provide some insight to the next generation that's coming up. So I appreciate all the high schoolers that are dialed in. I know some of you guys are working right now or on the basketball court doing extracurricular activities. So I know you'll catch the rerun of this recording, and I appreciate it. And I promise without a doubt that you'll take something away from today. And so shortly, just a little bit about my background. Graduated from Brunswick High back in 2011 under the captain of Coach Floyd. Had the opportunity to play Division I football up at the Naval Academy in Annapolis, Maryland, about 9 hours north of Brunswick. After that, I served and joined the Marine Corps as an officer, and then spent about 3 years out in Japan. Loved it. Had a chance to visit 26 countries before I turned the age of 26, and that was pretty great. And then now currently in San Diego, California, serving my time, working in logistics with a lot of my friends, and it's been a great time. And so without further ado, I want to go ahead and introduce the panelists that we have that are using their time to provide some insight. And I'll go ahead and do the first one that's near and dear to my heart. My twin brother decided to dial in tonight. And so if you can, for the panelists, and I'll introduce you a little bit, but just state your name, what your job is, and in normal terms. So don't give me any kind of like technical jargon, just something simple. So your name, what job you do, and then what year you graduated from Brunswick High, and then we'll go down the list. So Jabari, you're up first, brother.
Okay. I'm Jabari Robinson, obviously. Me and Shakira are twins. We're not identical, as you can see, but I'm a staff sergeant E5 in the Air Force. My job is military police. The AFSC, or our job title is security forces, but it's basically military police. And I graduated from Brunswick High School in 2011.
Okay, proud represent, appreciate it. And then Candace, I know we got you on the line. If you can introduce yourself, what year you graduated, and then what's your job in normal terms?
Hey, good evening, everybody. My name is Candace Hunt. Used to be Candace Carroll. So I'm a communications officer, which means I deal with cybersecurity. I deal with radio frequencies, satellite. Basically, I help the commander or whoever speak on the battlefield, right? And then I graduated in 2000 from Brunswick.
Yeah, awesome. I appreciate you dialing in. Thanks for your time. And then I know we got Albretta and Jamira dialed in too. So if y'all can introduce yourself, what year y'all graduated, and then what is your job in the Navy?
Hi, my name is Insana Moore. I am a surface select in the Navy, meaning that I drive and tactically fight warships. I graduated from Brunswick High School in 2015.
Hi, I'm her twin that's not her twin. We do the same things. And I graduated in 2015. I'm also a surface worker officer. Oh, and my name is Jamira Mathis.
I appreciate it. Hey, special shout out to all the out in. And then we're just gonna go through a list of questions. I got about 5 to 10 or so geared up. And if anybody else has any questions, go ahead and start jotting them down on your paper or putting your name in the group chat. And at the very end, I'll open it up for a Q&A session. And so I think it's important, right? We all walk the same hallways, whether BHS is on Habersham Street or Altama, same school, Brunswick High. I think it's always great to start off with why. And that's one of the great questions, like for Candace, I'll let you start it off. You know, why did you even join, you know, coming from Brunswick, Glenn County, like why would you even consider going to the military? And what was that decision-making process like for you?
All right, so I'll tell you the main reasons. The main reasons I joined was I wanted a challenge and I wanted to travel. But it started off with me trying to figure out how to get out of Brunswick. That started the whole conversation. I wanted to go to college. I had a few scholarships, and I ended up going to college right there at the local school, and then realized, no, I need to go away. So I joined the military, finished up my degree, became an officer, and like you, have traveled all around the world. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it. You talk about being able to like get away and you went to college. So I think Jabbar, you kind of got a similar story. I know you went to college for about 1.5 years and then you decided to enlist. So if you can, you know, Jabbar, what was your why behind joining the military as well?
So yeah, my why was I needed some stability in life. I had been to 3 different colleges in 3 semesters. So I was kind of at a different point in my life where like, hey, I need some stability. I need to figure out what I want to do. I want to choose a career path. So I said, yeah, I tried to work 2 jobs. So I was working at Zaxby's from 4 to about 10. And then I would work overnight at racetrack from 10:30 to 6 in the morning. So I did that for about maybe 4 to 5 months. And I was like, yeah, that's not going to work. It wasn't paying enough money and I was tired all day, literally just went to sleep and went to work. And I was still living at my parents' house and kind of wanted to do my own thing. So I was like, yeah, let me go ahead and join the military. Never thought about joining the military until that point. So I was like, yeah, I'll just be like my dad. He was in the military. I said he was pretty successful. Maybe I can be the same way, be successful like he was. So I said, yeah, let me go ahead and do that.
Okay, so working 2 jobs right there in Brunswick, nothing wrong with that, but you decided to go off into the Air Force. And so we got 3 officers on the phone and 1 enlisted, Jabari, that being you. Can you talk about what was life? I had a couple questions come in, like what was life going through boot camp? What is that experience like? You know, can you kind of share insight, impart some knowledge to guys that never been through boot camp? Like, was it hard? Was it challenging? What did you experience?
So for me, I got a couple of good stories, but the first story was Air Force basic training was 8.5 weeks. I ended up doing 10.5 weeks. So that tells you somewhere during that time something went wrong. So for me, it wasn't physically demanding, but it was more mentally demanding to be able to conform and do what my drill instructors wanted me to do. So I had to spend a little extra time doing that, which was okay with me because I was still getting paid at the end of the day. And I just wanted to keep my eye on the prize. So for me, it was more mental strain, so to speak, to just listen and stretch me and grow me in basic training and things like that. So it's not that bad. You just gotta stay strong, remember why you're there, and keep on pushing. So that's what it was for me.
Okay. And I know, Brett, I think you had a different route going into the military. Can you talk about your experience and how you got to where you are today, as far as where did you go to school and how that opportunity come arise?
I did, yeah. So for me, I'm first generation American. My parents are from Antigua and Barbuda. In the 8th grade, I had student chief to try to ask him to good and say, hey, you know, we have this JRTC program and we have these scholarships. Now, coming from a first generation background, my parents did not have the means at the time to send me to school. So I know that I had to find a way to get there. So I started working for my scholarships. Then I picked up Army and Navy, ultimately chose Navy, and I went to Spelman College on an ROTC scholarship. So I had a normal college lifestyle, but still very difficult, taking on over 27 extra credit hours to commission from Morehouse and ROTC.
Yeah, no, it's awesome. I think so. That's a pretty unique experience right there. You went to college 4 years, got your degree, and then you went off into the service. And it's funny, your roommate right there, also from Brunswick, Georgia, or graduated from BHS. I'm tracking that you spent 4 years at the Naval Academy, my alma mater. Can you kind of talk about your experience there and how you enjoyed it or did not enjoy it, and kind of what you learned about yourself while you were there?
My my path started with Shakira Robinson as the best mentor ever, leading me to the greatest school ever. And then I also met Miss Candace Hunt on my path, and she also encouraged me from a female point. I applied for both ROTC scholarships to Naval Academy and West Point. I was accepted to West Point and the Naval Academy. And once I was accepted, I just kind of stopped applying to other schools. And I went to the Naval Academy. I went to the preparatory school first up in Rhode Island. And then I did 4 years at the Naval Academy as a cyber operations major. I cannot lie to you and say it was easy. There was many a days I had to hit up Shakir and ask him for help mentally, physically, from the Lord, from a friend. But I made it through. I definitely learned a lot of things. I had a lot of experiences. I was able to travel over to Israel for a cyber conference. I pretty much traveled all over the US. I work with the football team, and it's a normal college experience to an extent. However, you are wearing your military uniform every day. You only allowed to leave on weekends. You're at a military college like Cadet Kelly, but I made the best of it. I learned from it and moving on and becoming more secure every day.
No, I appreciate the compliment. And can you kind of share, I think something that's special about those scholarships is like, how much did you have to pay to be able to do your 4-year time at the 4-year university? And how much student debt did you walk away with?
Okay, so for me, the scholarship was $180,000, and the scholarship is kind of dependent on the school that you go to. So my Morehouse counterparts, they come out of college 100% debt free because Morehouse offered a room and board scholarship along with their ROTC scholarship. For me, I probably came out with $30,000 because Spelman is a very expensive school, and I had to pay for room and board out of pocket.
And Jameer, how about yourself?
I came out paying nothing and getting paid. So definitely a different experience. I don't know if some of you guys caught 2015 when I graduated, I had a big check for like $500,000 that covered all of my tuition. So yeah, bit of a different story, but definitely different experiences. And God just leads you where he wants you to be.
No, I appreciate that. A little bit earlier, Jameer, you're kind of going into like what that day-to-day life was at the Naval Academy with Candace. Once you guys come into the fleet or, the Marine Corps for you, can you kind of explain a little bit about what's a normal day-to-day life like for you as of right now being in the United States? What can a high schooler expect?
Okay, so like I would say whether you're an officer or enlisted, when you wake up in the morning, probably around 5:30 or 6 o'clock, you're going to be at PT by 6 or 6:30. So you're at PT, you're going to go work out with your platoon most likely. And then after that, you're going to go to chow probably around 7:30, 8 o'clock maybe. And you should be in the shop by 8:30. That's probably running late, depending on what you have to do. Different jobs sometimes have different schedules, like aviation, depending if you have like shift work. But if you have a standard 8 to 5 type of job, you're going to be there until about, I'd say 1800 in the evening. So.
Okay, PT being physical training, then 1800 being 6 p.m.
Yeah.
No, I had no clue when I was back at VHS what that meant. And so that's a normal day-to-day life. It can be a normal day-to-day life, like here stateside. But Jabari, I know you went on a deployment a couple years ago. Can you kind of talk about like what deployment life is like? Was it scary? Was it challenging? And kind of how you got through it?
Yeah, so in 2016, I deployed to Qatar, which is in the Middle East near Syria, Jordan, those type of countries. So with my job, we did base ground defense, which is basically there's a base, you set up security, and you basically defend the base. So there's many different jobs. You protect the planes, protect the personnel, things like that. It wasn't bad because of the area we were in didn't have a huge threat, but you always just have to keep your eyes on the swivel because you got to remember you're on foreign land. So AKA you're not in America. So you always just have to keep your head on the swivel. And day-to-day hours, it was 12-hour shifts, 12 to 14 hours because with my job having to arm up or get your weapons. So you have to show up to formation early and then leave later because you have to turn in weapons. And how I got through it was just, again, talking to my family, making sure my family was good, just pressing through things, finding something to do. So my thing to do while I was deployed, which is a lot of everybody's, is just work out. So I was in, honestly, the best shape of my military career while I was deployed. So that was my thing to do, is work out.
Okay. Yeah, no, I thanks for taking us step by step, kind of like your process of how you got through deployment and what it was. Earlier, people kind of mentioned two terms, officer and enlisted. And I think a lot of high schoolers may have an indication of what that is or may not. Candace, can you kind of help bring us up to speed on what the differences is and kind of what the routes are for both of them?
Okay, so basic difference is an officer commissions, and we are about 10% of the total force, whether you talk about Air Force, Navy, Marine Corps, and an enlisted person literally enlists, right? So the difference is you got a degree for them usually. There may be some programs that allow you to not have one or have a partial degree, but you got to have a bachelor's degree usually to be a commissioned officer. Enlisted, you don't. You can come straight out of high school, go sign up, go talk to the recruiter, and go right in. The amount of time it takes from the day you see the recruiter to you actually making it to your next job is normally shorter for an enlisted person, depending on what their job is. As opposed to a commissioned officer, obviously you got to do your 4 years of school, and then you also have to do some type of officer program to like ensure you know what you need to be a professional officer, right? So there are pretty big differences. And I say the last thing is an enlisted person sometimes can be more of a specialist or a technical person, unless you're a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. Obviously, you're a specialist, but most officers are generalists and managers. We know a ton about our entire field, and we don't know all the details. We're big into books, we're big into reading, big into orders and directives. But we normally lean on our enlisted guys to actually get things done for us as we make plans.
Okay, yeah, that definitely makes a lot more sense to me now, and I think a lot of the high schoolers as well. Alberta, I know, so you graduated with your 4-year degree, and then you became an officer. Kind of what expectations does the fleet have of you as an officer? And then what kind of management leadership role are you in right when you get to your unit in the Navy?
So coming in the Navy, my junior stage didn't have all the answers. Like Ms. Hunt said, we're not the technical experts, but my job is to be able to find the answer and find whatever parts and materials they need so that they can accomplish their job. So most of the time, I'm the person in the background saying, hey, my sailors need this, so X, Y, can happen. Challenges, because of COVID-19, there have been a lot of challenges and things going on. So it's more so, sometimes I don't want to say, but being a parent, but being an ear there for your sailors and being a voice, so they know that their voice is being heard, because they don't always have the opportunity to talk to the higher ups about what's going on. But as an officer, that's your job to ensure that your people are okay.
No, I think that's great. And so there's a lot more benefits, right, about being in the service. However, before we kind of get to like the finances and all that, Jameer, can you kind of share with us, how have you grown since wearing that uniform that you're wearing? Has it made you a better person? Has it refined any skills? Or kind of where were you before? Where are you now? And kind of where do you self-assess yourself?
Wow, that's a big question. I would say, looking back in high school, I was a pretty outspoken person. I kind of said whatever I thought needed to be said. But now I can definitely say that I'm more tactful. For myself as an officer, I see myself still being that outspoken person, but I take it through, if I have a seat at the table, I have the responsibility to speak. And especially being a Black female, there's a lot to say, and there's a lot of people that need to be, sorry, it's my dog. A lot of people who need to be, a lot of people that need to have their voice heard in one way or another. But overall, I think I'm just definitely more tactful in how I approach situations and how I think about different things, and I'm more open to other people's opinions and coming together and working as a group. Okay, sorry, I have a new son. I think Mainly, at the end of the day, you definitely grow as a become more mature. You're no longer that 17, 18-year-old who's graduated from high school, thought you knew everything and just had your driver's license. Now you have responsibilities. You have to make sure that other people are taken care of. And you have to think beyond yourself, most importantly.
No, I like it. Definitely in-depth response as far as, personal growth and what that really means to you and how it's been exemplified. So I'm going to go throw in a tagline right now. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and put your name in the chat. But I got a couple more before I round it out. Jabari, can you kind of share with us, like, what is it about the Air Force that you like the most? I mean, you're in for what, over 7 years now. What's kind of keeping you in, and what have you enjoyed thus far in your career?
Yeah, so I just hit about 7.5 years. And I think the biggest thing that I like about the Air Force is it's kind of run as an organization versus the military. So you're not so micromanaged maybe as other jobs or other branches. So I get to wake up and go to work. And for the most part, I'm at work. Outside of work, they kind of let you have a life outside of work. You kind of do your own thing. So for me, I enjoy the Air Force because I'm able to spend time with my family. And when I'm having family time, it's family time for the most part. And the Air Force kind of gives me that leeway to say, hey, sir, I have something going on with my family, and they'll let me go and make sure I deal with it. Versus it may be different in other branches. So I enjoy how they treat you. So because honestly, a lot of other branches it may be different, but I know for my personal experience, that's why I wanted to join the Air Force, to have the better lifestyle or be treated a certain way. So that was it for me.
So the better lifestyle is another reason why you decided to join. I think that, definitely seeing you as a father of two and the time that you're able to pour into your kids is definitely huge. Also, another member on the panel that has multiple kids, Candace, can you kind of speak about, a lot of people leave home and there's always desire to be financially stable and to be able to provide one for your family, for yourself as well. And then not have to, kind of worry about the paycheck to paycheck lifestyle. Can you talk a little bit about what resources, what incomes the military provides, and then what benefits, if any, does the military provide that some high schoolers may or may not know?
Man, that was a big question. Resources and benefits. Okay. All right. First off, yes, I have 3 kids. All right. 5, 3, and 10 months. And you haven't heard them yet, but they may come in for too long. So as far as finances go, I guess you can kind of break it down in 2 ways, right? When we have a job, we get a paycheck. Okay. And that paycheck is normally what we think about. But the other side of that job is normally something like a benefit, health insurance, things like that. So the military, regardless of your branch, compensates its members handsomely when it comes to your benefits. So we get what's called a basic allowance for housing if you actually stay out in town. You get really, really good health and dental, eye benefits. Basically, everything's paid for, right? And that includes your children. So there's a small fee, something around $20 to $100 per family for like your medical stuff, but those prices are nothing compared to what you're getting, right? And then there's tons of other benefits like life insurance. The list kind of goes on. I could almost pull up mine and show you, but it adds a great value. And the civilian sector doesn't really do this as much. They're starting to go down. There's also retirement benefits. So, of course, when you retire at 20 years, you get your amount. But they've just currently moved to something called BRS. BRS stands for Blended Retirement System, where you get a percentage of your base pay up front. I think they'll match you up to, I think, 10%. So if you put in 5, they'll put in 5. So the reason they did this is because day one, you can start this blended retirement system. You put in 5% of your pay, the military will put in 5% of their pay. And if I decide to get out in 5 years, I have this cash money in my IRA or my retirement portfolio immediately, right? And I can push it to another company or use it on my own. So that's the benefit side. The pay obviously goes up rank. So as you do your tests or your evaluations, as you get chosen for higher ranks because you performed well, your pay goes up. And you can all Google that, what's the base pay for E1 to E5 or O1 to O5. And it's pretty handsome, I'll tell you. For somebody that's been in 15 years, I'm doing pretty well, so.
Well, I appreciate you kind of explaining that. And I'm a straight shooter. So I know a lot of the high schoolers, when I was back in Brunswick about 3 weeks ago, they love numbers. And so I'll go ahead and share it. So the officer and enlisted pay scale is definitely different, right? Which Candace said that you can Google it. You can type in military pay chart and you can see the officer and enlisted. So I think where I'm at right now, nearing the 6-year mark as a Marine Corps officer, bachelor's degree, living out in California. They give me a housing stipend to live off of, as well as my normal income. And so I think last year, and none of this is all just a blessing from God, right? So, but easily nearing like $107,000, so 6 figures, living out here in California. And so if guys are wondering, guys, women are wondering back at Brunswick High, what can I make in the military? Depending on what route you go, what decisions you make, you can definitely reach a lifestyle that the Justin Colemans or the Tracy Clarks or whoever it is also living to a certain degree. Obviously they're making millions, but if you want to not have to worry about living paycheck to paycheck, there's definitely a certain level of sustainability that you get that you can reach being in the military. I think somebody said earlier, being able to travel. Jabbar, did you have something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say it does give you that stability. Me having 2 small kids, 3 and 1, and having a wife who just got out of the military, it just gives me satisfactory knowing that I can be able to provide for them. So and I don't have to worry if something's wrong, they can go to the doctor, they can go get glasses, they can go get their teeth cleaned, things like that. Everybody doesn't have insurance, and things like paying for different doctor bills. A lot of people, doctor bills are on their credit, which makes their doctor bill credit go down and things like that. So that's something that a lot of us in the military don't have to worry about. So that's a great benefit for me as well.
Yeah, no, I appreciate you sharing that. I think a gentleman told me one time, money isn't everything, but it can definitely solve a lot of problems. And I definitely believe that. Brett or Jameer, can you share, sometimes people, they hear the slogan in the Navy, join the Navy, travel the world. Have you all been able to travel the world yet? And if so, can you kind of share one travel experience? I think that some of these high schoolers may want to hear.
I would say definitely yes. And even as in between is what I was during college. I had the opportunity to go to San Diego, which I never went to when I was in high school. And then I went on a foreign exchange cruise to Japan. That was probably my best experience so far. The people are all about the wa, which is for the people, the good of the people. And now have the opportunity to continue to travel all over the place.
For me, like I said, I've basically been all over the U.S. from Fleet Week in New York, a football game in San Diego, Detroit a couple times, Louisiana, it was a lot of states. And then I went to Israel for the conference. Due to COVID, I was not able to be stationed out in Spain, but I was supposed to go there. I was supposed to have a cruise, it's like our summer training to the Bahamas, but some logistical errors happened as well. But there's a whole bunch of travel opportunities. And I also want to tag on to what everybody is saying with the benefits as far as the military. Something you may not think about. I personally had the military pay for my braces and different cosmetic things for my teeth. And then I also got, it's called PRK, which is basically like LASIK eye surgery, which corrects your vision. And if I'm correct, I think it's like a $5,000 surgery. So all of that was free for me. And I know a whole bunch of other people who do have, I would say, elective surgeries that are considered important for your job, because if you can't see, then what can you do? That are completely covered for because of the military.
And I'd like to add on too, sorry. I have seen things that you as civilians have seen. Like I've been to the depths of the ocean on a submarine for over 8 days. I've been up high in the sky, opportunities that I probably would not have had if I did not join the military.
Yeah, no, I love it. Thanks for sharing. I think I see a new guest that just dialed in. Staff Sergeant Taylor, she graduated from Glenn Academy. I'm not sure if you're able to unmute yourself, but if you had one thing that you would tell your high school self that the high schoolers would be open to hearing, can you share one piece of advice before you got to get off?
So for me, I'd say just keep your head on straight. It's sort of like what Jabari said. You know, when I joined the military, I had an attitude issue. And I joined the military for stability as well. But the military and the Marine Corps specifically is exactly where I should have been. And it's probably the most rewarding thing that I've done in my life.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. And at this time, we'll open it up for questions and answers. So how we'll do this is go ahead and, if there's any questions, go ahead and throw your name in the chat box and I'll give you a shout out and then you can unmute yourself and go ahead and talk. So while you guys are gearing up your questions, I'll levy that last question to all the panelists. Candace, knowing what you know now, you're far into your 15-year career, beautiful family, a lot of accomplishments. Looking back at your high school self, what kind of advice, knowing what you know now, would you have told yourself?
I would have said, dream big. Just thinking about the people that I have talked to, like Jamaria, when she was in high school, you don't realize the potential you have when you see certain things around you. You know, when you were raised, I was raised in the country, you know, my parents didn't go to college, my granddad couldn't even read, dream big. All right. Don't limit yourself by what you see around you or what you think is possible. If you work hard, you surround yourself with good people that are willing to help you, you can literally do anything. The sky's the limit. So don't limit yourself.
True testament to hard work and staying resilient throughout all the challenges and obstacles. Thank you. I appreciate your time, Candace. Just another statement, reciting. If anybody has any questions, go ahead and throw your name in the chat group. If not, we'll go ahead and let Jabari say his last piece for his words. Jabari, if you could tell your back in 2011 or 2010, tell your high school self one piece of information, what would it be?
I think for me, my biggest takeaway would be just to continue to work hard, and never give up believing in yourself. And whatever you do, stick to it. So if you want to go to college, give it 110%. If you want to go to the workforce, give it 110%. If you want to go to the military, give it 110%. So whatever you want to do, just give it your all, because it'll work out. You can't fail yourself if you give 100%. If you give 100% and it doesn't work out, it wasn't meant for you. So I think that I just take that because I never saw myself in the military before joining, because I'm like, well, I don't want people telling me what to do. I want to do my own thing. But now being in the military for 7.5 years, like Sophia said, I think I'm right where I needed to be able to impact and do the things that I do.
No, I hear you all loud and clear. Thanks. I appreciate the last words. We did have one question in the chat group, and I'll leave it for Jameer or Albretta. It kind of presented itself as far as discrimination in the military. And the reality is, right, that where the people from the military come is from the general society right here in the U.S. So if there's some things that occur on the outside world, in the civilian sector, there's also items that happen inside the military. So specifically racism, can anybody speak to, was there a time that you experienced racism? And then if so, how did you overcome it or how did you work past it?
I would say it's definitely an issue that as an officer, I've had to face head on junior sailors. And sometimes it's just, like Shaq said, a matter of fact of where you're coming from and realizing that you have to check your biases, because when you're in the military, you're an adult, so you have that responsibility to do your due diligence and do research on these things. And you also have to understand that people don't come from the same backgrounds. So that's the joy of the military, is that people are coming from so many different places, and you're able to communicate with people and get different insights on, hey, maybe why they feel this way, or maybe why things should not be this way. And then definitely being less than 1% of the 1%. As an African-American woman, I've had junior sailors come and ask questions or express how they feel, and I'm able to be in a position to where we can sit down and have that conversation on why they feel the way that they feel.
No, I appreciate it. Jameer, have you had the experience anything like that before, as far as the Naval Academy and or in the fleet? And if so, if you feel comfortable, you can talk about it, and then we can go from there.
So the answer is yes. Unfortunately, coming from the Naval Academy, there are a lot of students who come from affluent homes of all over. There's only 3% African American. No, I don't know the exact numbers right now, honestly, but let's say in a class of 1,000, there was only 9 African American females in that class, and we have 4 different classes, so you can only imagine. Being the president of the National Society of Black Engineers, I was able to, I would say, counsel and hear a lot of different stories from the members in our club and see maybe what problems that they were facing. One of the biggest things that I can remember from the academy is that I was at the Secretary of the Navy's house, and the topic of the night for the dinner was unconscious bias. And I can't exactly remember how the person worded it, but they basically were putting down African Americans, saying that we shouldn't deserve something just because we are Black. And the Secretary of the Navy's response was, well, you shouldn't be looking at it like that. You should be looking at it as their qualifications that got them there. Just because somebody is a color, that should not be your focus. You need to be focusing on what they have accomplished, because the people who are chosen to be at the Naval Academy, officers in the military, positions that they are in, no matter if it's the private sector, the public sector, the military, they deserve to be there. So for your first thought to be Black, white, they shouldn't be getting an extra point on the board because they're Black. That means that you have an unconscious bias and it needs to be checked.
Zoom, don't tell me nothing.
Yeah, no, we're good. We're good. I appreciate your response. I think we have one more question, actually 2 in the chat. And Candace, I'll tee you up for this one. Pretty much the synopsis of it was, knowing that you've experienced life as an adult and in the military and the level of success that you've experienced. What is on your heart to be able to share that with the next generation or others, that you can set them up for success? Now I'll pass that to Candace.
All right, yeah, I read that. So that's a really big question. I mean, I would say kudos to you, because what you're doing right now is exactly what we should be doing, right? We should be communicating as much as possible to people that are younger than us, maybe even older than us, just to kind of share. But me specifically, what I'm passionate about is actually investing and money. That's like my next life. So I was actually thinking about it earlier today. How am I going to position myself so that I can maybe have a small school to teach young people, like high school age, from 14 to 24. Got it? From 14 to 24 to use their money well, right? So when you grow up, how many of us actually know how to use our money? I mean, really, did anybody teach you that? No, I don't think I even learned that in college. So if it's not something that is important to you, you can walk around like you and I, Jack, make 6 figures and get out of the military and be broke or have to work again. So I noticed that in the military, that's something that's even lacking. We're not educating our young troops, our young airmen on what to do with their money and how to position themselves to do whatever they want when they get out. So that's something I'm really passionate about. I'm still trying to figure it out, still praying about how to get it done. But right now, I just use my Marines. We talk about it. And if we find like little lunch groups and we talk to other people and we realize, oh man, you're investing with this year. Okay, how are you making money? Okay, well, how can we go back and maybe talk to our troops about what to do with their extra $50 or extra $500 they have a month, depending on what their situation is. It's important. We grow up, we get a job, and we're told work, and that's not the answer. Yeah, we have to work, but we don't want to work forever, you know.
Nope, I love it. Financial literacy is so important that maybe we don't get all the information that we need leaving high school. However, we do find out what the circumference of a circle is. Jabari, 2 questions I think you can answer from Rakaya. One was, do you get to pick where you're going to be stationed? And then that second question is, what's the living conditions will be like once you're at your location?
Okay, so for the Air Force and most military branches, you won't be able to choose for the most part where you go. Some jobs are not at all bases, so it just depends on what your job is and where that location may be. There is a thing called a dream sheet where you put down bases where your job can be stationed at, and you can try to go off of that. But for the most part, you have to be pretty open about where you're going to get stationed. And living conditions, for the most part, Air Force dorms are you have your own room, and you only share a kitchen and you share a bathroom. But you have your own room. Most of the dorms have walk-in closets, things like that. So that's the living conditions for the most part. And even when I was deployed, we lived in trailers, but we only shared a bathroom with one person, or we only shared a room with one person, and we had things like Wi-Fi. We still had Wi-Fi in our dorm rooms. So that's a little different from other people. Just being honest, some people live in tents and things like that. We didn't have to live in the tents, which I'm grateful for. So yeah.
And Jabari, go ahead and stick with that last question from Rakars. What can she expect, or what can she do prior to joining the military so she can be prepared?
Just be prepared to have some change in your life. Everything isn't gonna always go your way, whether it's you getting orders and they tell you, hey, you're gonna go to Minot, North Dakota. You may just have to suck it up and go, or you may get a great location like Panama City Beach, Florida. So just things like that. You got to be open to go anywhere, and I think it'll be a good choice. If you want to go to school, you can go to school. If you want to get a certification, you can get a certification. So just be open-minded when coming into the military.
Nope, awesome. I appreciate it. Hey, going right down the line, we'll get it while the coals are hot. Bretta, one of the questions was if there's one redo you can go back, something that you may regret or something you wish you could have improved on so far in your career. Is there something you would have go back to change or alter your decision making on? If not, that's okay. I'll throw it to another panelist.
For me, I would say PT has always been a struggle. So coming in as a midshipman, I was on the fitness enhancement program, which is extra physical fitness. And I would say as I progressed throughout the 4 years, it definitely got better, but it's definitely something that I would have kept up more with, because it is part of our job as service members to be physically fit. So for me, that's a personal challenge that I faced throughout my career.
No, that's great. No, physical fitness. I mean, that's pretty much what a big thing that distinguishes, the private sector in comparison to, the Marines, Army, the Navy, or the Air Force as well. And I'm looking at the questions right now. One of them was, can anybody? I think Staff Sergeant Taylor would be a great one for this. Actually, that one of the questions was, what are some of the educational opportunities? Some of the officers that are dialed in have already, got their bachelors. If you decide to enlist, what educational opportunities are there in the military that you can take advantage of, and that may be free?
So for me, obviously we get tuition assistance. So with tuition assistance, we pretty much get to go to college for free. I know a lot of folks, including myself, we do online college. So depending on your job, it's so much easier to do online college because you do it at kind of your own pace. But it's 100% free. And the only thing, unless you fail the class, you don't pay anything. So I'm basically going to school for free while doing my job at the same time.
No, it's not. And I think if I'm correct, you're only about an hour 45 minutes north of Brunswick right now as we speak. And one of your roles there is actually to train and make Marines. As Jabari was talking about boot camp, but I think in the Marines they call it recruit training. Can you talk about that? The earlier question, I think we want to circle back on it just because where we're at, having these conversations. As far as you're in a trainer position, a billet where you're over multiple recruits. We're talking about 10s up to 40 or even more than 40. And so as a trainer, as a leader of Marines, and as a leader of recruits, what are your experiences when it comes to racial bias that you've seen, and how have you overcome that as a leader?
So as a leader, just the way that I am as a person, the way I overcome it is just knowing that it's if it's not affecting me, my money, or my family, then it doesn't really matter to me. But from the leader aspect, I believe that just dealing with, recruits from everywhere, pretty much all walks of life, coming from nothing. Some of them come from, they're have a well-off family, and having their personalities clash with mine. But being a leader, what I stress to my kids daily is you're going to run into people that you may not. Sorry. Can you close my hatch? You close my hatch. Sorry. But you deal with kids from all walks of life. So you have to be able to pretty much tell them, hey, it is what it is. Whatever you were raised on, it might be different views from somebody else, but don't let that view basically sway your idea of the Marine Corps or your way of doing things in the Marine Corps.
No, that's great. I appreciate you. I mean, you're on the ground, you're doing the day to day, and you hear the training in the background. I think is pretty motivating. We do have one guest that's dialed in, a panelist, a BHS graduate, also spent time in the Air Force, Mr. Vale. If you had one piece of advice for the group, I think it would be insightful for another pirate to provide his advice in this platform. So if you can't go ahead and unmute yourself, and then we'll wrap it up with this.
Man, unintentional. I didn't expect to speak on this, but thank you for the opportunity. One advice that I would say, follow your dreams at great extent. Do not limit yourself in anything that you want to do. And I'll say this, even if you come in as an enlisted, don't let that stop you from going to the officer level. And again, just keep striving. One of the things I like to say to people, please let your grasp exceed your risk, and some great things will happen for you.
Thanks, Mr. Vale. I appreciate that. And with that, we'll wind down this week 3, the special edition of Brunswick and Beyond. And there you have it, folks. You got panelists dialing in from Virginia, in the Air Force, the Army, the Marines, as well as the Navy. And you got Staff Sergeant Taylor right up the street in Parris Island, South Carolina. It's been great. I think what we heard just in summary was, women and men that are excited to one, get education. Everybody on the phone right now either has their bachelor's or is working on their bachelor's, and some even have their master's. 2, their tenacity to go experience the world outside of Brunswick. And as you can see, they're doing quite well. Financially, they're doing quite well, being well spoken. And it's just been encouraging for me to hear my peers that also graduated from Brunswick, and the couple that graduated from Glenn Academy, being able to speak at such a level to provide this insight to each other. And then lastly, 3 is the service that they're providing to us, giving back to their community, providing insight, especially answering all the questions from the crowd. And so I just want to say again, a huge thank you. You could have been anywhere in the world tonight, but you decided to be here with us, with Brunswick and Beyond. And I truly appreciate that. And I look forward to week 4, the last edition of Brunswick and Beyond, next Monday, same time, same place, 6:30 Eastern. I look forward to you joining. We'll have a software engineer, a sports reporter, which is going to be great, and then also a Hollywood actor. So if you are one of the creative types, feel free to dial in, or you like computers and software, feel free to dial in as well. And at this point, we'll conclude it. Thank you guys, and have a great night. Stay safe.
Good job. Great job.